Hello. Oh, hello, 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 and welcome. My name is Sabrina Victoria. Thank you so much for being here. This is Her Talk Show. We have an awesome conversation we're going to have today around sabotage. We're talking to you women business owners out there. We have Diane here today. We're going to be talking all about the sneaky little thing where we're accidentally sabotaging ourselves on purpose, accidentally. So get comfortable. We're going to have some really great conversations. Diana has some great insights, some wisdom to share on this, along with her life stories. We're going to be fueling not only your personal growth, but also your professional growth today. Super excited.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
Hello, if you're listening live, welcome. And if you're listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can send you some love in the comments. We're here every day. We delve deep into the realms of health, wealth, and leadership with some of the most brilliant women globally. We're super excited to have Diana here today. We've interviewed over 600 women, and today we are adding another one to the list. Lisa Nichols calls her food to my soul. By Diana's Body calls her a 40-year-old single mom with an autoimmune disease and questionable life choices. After 20 plus years thriving in the pressure cookers of Wall Street and Michelin-starred kitchens, Diana now helps ambitious women achieve next level success without letting stress wreck their health, relationships, or sanity. Welcome, lady. How are you?
I am amazing. It is a beautiful day here in Hawaii.
Look at how my almonds are just like popping up here on the side. Blue diamond almonds. Just stealing the show like an advertisement. Love it. Coming in from Hawaii. Well, welcome. I'm in the South Florida-esque area, so we're covering all the bases today. And you're bringing an interesting topic to us, sabotage. Why sabotage?
Because I think that a lot of us are doing things that we think are the right thing and not necessarily realizing how they could be stopping us, causing more issues, and ultimately derailing us from what we really want.
Girl. I feel this so much in my heart and my soul, but I want you to dive in because this, I don't know if what I am thinking is what you're thinking. So when you say sometimes we feel like we're doing the right thing, what does that mean?
Sometimes I think that we do what other people tell us to do. And I think that we do what other people tell us is the right thing. I definitely feel like there were many times in my life where I was caught up doing what other people told me would lead me to success. And for me, I guess we're going right into it, but I think about how I was that person when I was a senior in high school. So it was the first week of September, maybe second week. And I was a senior in high school, and I was thinking about many of the things that we think about when we're a senior in high school. And school has just started. I was thinking about boys. I was thinking about, what outfits I was going to be wearing. Because, you got to look fresh your first few weeks of school, right? Like you're busting out all the new outfits. And then I also was thinking about college applications. And that first week of school on a random Tuesday, I remember looking outside of my classroom window and seeing a plane hit the World Trade Center.
You looked outside your window?
Yeah. So in an instant, everything that I thought mattered, all the things that I was so caught up in, instantly became something that didn't actually matter, right? Like my mind went to, are my friends okay? Am I going to be okay? Am I going to see my parents again? I was 2 blocks away from the World Trade Center in high school. Like that was where my high school was. And so all of the uncertainty that everybody saw through their TVs, I got to see stuff through my classroom window that they wouldn't show you on TV. And It really changed my worldview in terms of where am I doing things that I call them shouldy things. SHOULDY things, right? Like things that people told us we should be doing or we should be focusing on, as opposed to the things that actually matter to us. And
Wow.
I think that we have to check ourselves and really look at, like, am I doing stuff that's shouldy, or am I doing stuff that truly matters to me?
Dude, I love that. Shouldly. I I totally get this. And I know, by the way, we have a ton of people already watching live. So thank you so much for being here. I know that people get this. And what's so interesting is sometimes going through something catastrophic is the thing that actually wakes us up. And that's why I think storytelling is so important, right? Because we hear a story like this with Diana, and then all of a sudden, what do we start doing? We start like thinking, like, dude, what's actually important to me? So how old were you again?
17.
17.
Mhm.
Dude, I can't even imagine like your heart. Like just what is going on? Can you just talk about it just for a little bit? I know we're like on a different subject, but like what
Sure.
vibration of everybody so close?
So one thing that's really interesting is I actually don't have a lot of memory of 9/11. So if you know anything about trauma or anything like that, and I know you definitely know a lot about trauma or have survived a lot of trauma, Sabrina. Sometimes our brain actually blocks us from remembering a lot. And I will share some of the memories that I've had, but I just want to presence that, because sometimes it doesn't feel safe for us to remember. So there can be parts of that we don't remember. And so I have like all these like major details that are like kind of like blacked out in my mind. Like I don't know how. And I honestly, for a long time, didn't even think that I had PTSD or any of those sort of things. And it wasn't until I worked. So fast forward maybe like 10, 15 years, I was working as a chef in New York City. One of the restaurants that I helped service was the cafe at the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. And I had a break in between teams that I was training. One of the managers suggested, "Oh, why don't you go down and look at the exhibits?" And so here I am at work thinking like I'm just going to take a quick break and go like walk through the exhibit and like see stuff, right? I literally, as I was getting down there, I could feel like my heart just beating faster. Like my I can feel it right now. Like my throat starting to close. Like it was harder for me to talk. My pulse quickened. Like, and it harkened me back to that day, right? Because again, the memorial in the museum is there to help us remember what happened, right? So here I am, like seeing, the pictures of like everything covered in white, right? And all these things that I had dissociated from, all these things that I had not reminded, like I purposely like kind of blocked out of my brain, started flooding back. And it got to a place where I literally couldn't breathe. I was like running out of the memorial because I couldn't breathe anymore. And so what I remember about that day is not that much, like I was saying. And part of that has to do with like a really strong ability to dissociate. So I have a deadly peanut allergy. And I learned at a really young age, when stressful things or life-threatening things happen, how to, it seemed to me at the time, how to calm down. But what I really was learning how to do was like detach from my feelings, to not feel anything, right? To step outside of my body and almost become like this logical zombie who was pushing through or like getting wherever I needed to go, but not actually present. And so like I've had experiences like that walking through that kind of made me realize like, whoa, there's like deeper shit here that I'm like not even processing. Something is wrong. Like this is not a normal way that somebody walks through the museum and feels. And so that kind of led me down this path of really looking at and understanding trauma on a different level. Wow. But yeah, it was surreal. Like I remember one moment I do remember. So we were evacuating, right? Which that day like also really taught me, when we talk about the shittiness, it taught me how like my teachers were just as clueless as I was, right? Like they had no idea what was going on. Nobody had any idea what was going on. And I think that was what was so scary, was this like lack of knowledge or lack of ability to control and like all those kind of things, right? I remember I remember we were being evacuated. So we were like right on the ramp to walk out the doors. And as we were there, like, you know, we had TVs working also, so we could like sort of see what was going on inside. And as the first tower fell, many people saw that on TV. We didn't just see it on TV. We saw our TV go out. We felt the ground beneath us shake. And then minutes later, they sent us out into that.
Wow.
And I was just like, I mean, I'm sure for them as adults, it was probably just as scary, and like they felt a sense of responsibility of like, is this the right thing to do for these kids, you know? But like, they basically sent us up the West Side Highway to walk, and it wasn't like they told us where to go. We were just like sent out, and as we walked out, the other thing that I remember is just seeing all these people who were also walking up the West Side Highway. So we weren't completely alone, although I couldn't find my friends or any of those things. We were walking up the West Side Highway, and there were all these people like covered in the ash. Right. So they looked like ghosts walking,
Wow.
you know, just walking. Right. And like we're walking right next to them. And I think it was, you know, like a little bit we'd walked already when we got to see the second tower fall. And I remember around then when we saw the second tower fall was when I realized that the date was 9/11. And I had this like sinking feeling in my stomach of like, oh my God, like we don't know what's going on. We don't know how bad this is. Like what does this mean? You know, like, and all I could do was just like keep walking. Right. Like, and it seemed so stupid. I remember I was walking with a classmate, and like we weren't close, but every single year on 9/11, I text her or I like message her on Facebook Messenger. And I'm like, hey, just thinking of you today. Cause like sometimes, you know, sometimes the support that we're going to receive doesn't show up in the way that we wanted. Of course, I wanted to be around friends or family or people I was close to, but like, I do believe like God, spirit, the universe always sends some form of support our way. Mm-hmm. And I'm really glad that she was with me. You know, we walked all the way up to 23rd Street. I think we saw her dad. And then at some point we found out that the subways were open because they closed like all the bridges and the tunnels, and like there was no way out pretty much. Like you couldn't get around anywhere other than on foot. And eventually they opened it up. And I remember like getting home, seeing my parents, and it still felt surreal. Like, I don't even know if, as much as I'd been worried about whether or not I'd see them again, I don't even remember if I hugged them. You know, like, so there's these huge pockets of my memory that's like not there. And it's kind of crazy. Wow. Like, I feel almost, you know, people always say like, never forget 9/11. And I'm like, what happens if it's hard to remember?
What do you think has been the real lesson for you regarding surviving 9/11?
I think that the thing that I carry the most and still carry to this day is that knowledge of like, I don't know how long I have left. And this idea, like, you know, this idea of what's shouldy in our life. Like, am I doing stuff? Am I investing my limited time here on this earth in things that don't actually matter because they look good, or because I promised something to somebody and I don't want to let them down, or because whatever that is? And so a lot of times in my life, I check myself and I think like, okay, if this was my last day on earth, will I really be happy with how I spent my time? And for me, that kind of gets me out of making more shitty decisions on like what I think are supposed to be the right thing, and more into what I know in my heart. Like if I didn't have that long to live, that I at least can rest, I guess, with peace.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And really coming full circle as far as this self-sabotage, you know, that's wasting so much time on the limited amount of time that we do have. What are some ways that you are seeing women self-sabotage themselves?
I think that from a really young age, we're conditioned to believe in certain things, or to glorify certain things. Even so, it can be like these images of like, oh, you know, Barbie has her Ken doll and she has her dream house and she has, here she is as a doctor, or like, so there are all these ways that subconsciously from childhood, we are fed images of like, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? Like, what job do you want to have, right? Like, so I think that there are lots of ways that we then begin to answer the question based on the questions that we've been asked, right? Like, and I think that we don't even realize like, there could be a whole other way of living. So I think that a lot of times I see women kind of fall into this place where they're doing what they think they're supposed to do, right? I think also like women, maybe even more so than men, we have this tendency to want to please others or want to make other people happy or care for others, and sometimes we do it at the expense of ourselves. Like as a mother, I talk about this all the time, but like when it comes to dinner, I always eat first. I do not feed my daughter, prepare this whole meal for her, and then like sit and then just eat the leftovers. I feed myself first, because I think that when I think about these subconscious patterns that we teach our children, that we learned as children, a lot of times we saw our mothers put themselves last. We saw our mothers like, do what everybody else needed and not take care of themselves. And it matters to me that my daughter sees me eat, that she sees that I'm going to put myself first. So she says, like, it's such a cute thing, but she's like, mama first, and like, and I'm glad that she knows like that, like, I'm absolutely going to take care of her needs. But if it comes to a difference between like, her wants and my needs are going to come before hers. And like, I think about this. So another crazy experience I've had is actually having to put the oxygen mask on, so a lot of times when I tell this story, people are like, oh yeah, like put the oxygen mask on yourself. Right. And I'll tell you, having actually, like, I was on a plane where a window in the cockpit shattered. And so all the oxygen masks dropped and we needed to use them. It is so hard. You've heard it so many times, it's what you're supposed to do, but it is so hard to put your own oxygen mask on first. You want to save everybody. You want to help everybody. And as a result, like you actually have to remind yourself like, I have to take care of myself first. Another thing that I think that keeps women in that place of like doing what's shouldy, I think there's a lot about personal development that people learn and then don't actually, like, it's like they took personal development 101 and they never take it to 201, 301, or 401. And so these things that like they learned, right, actually begin to be what hold them back. It's like I talk about this all the time with like hard work and drive and passion, right? Like hard work, drive, and passion are absolutely super powerful things. But if we never learn how to apply next level drive, next level hard work, next level passion, then we actually keep ourselves stuck. So once we learn how to take a tool, right, like we've got to take it, understand, okay, this took us into first gear. What is the second gear? What's the third gear? What's the fourth gear? And so what I think a lot of times what I see women do is like, they just think like, talking about a car analogy, right? It's like they're in first gear and they think that what they need to do to go faster is keep hitting the gas. And if you've ever driven, have you ever driven a stick shift car, Sabrina?
Yeah.
Right. Like is hitting the gas when you're in first gear going to get you faster?
No,
right? Like you're going to burn that engine. You're going to destroy that engine. And so what you got to do, and this is part of what I teach is in terms of skills, is like you actually need to disengage. You need to take your foot off the gas, as scary as that can seem. And you need to shift into another gear, and you need to do that mindfully, right? But a lot of times women, when they think about, especially when they're hardworking, ambitious women, they're trying to reach that next level of success, they think that taking their foot off the gas means that they're just going to slow down. And so sometimes they want to gun it faster, right? Like, so they want to hit that faster. And what I think is like, no, don't just do that. Don't just hit the gas harder. Level up your skills. So when you press the gas again, you're actually progressing. You're actually moving farther, faster, and easier.
Totally get that. I love this analogy that you're using of the gears. I think most people can relate to that as far as the new evolution, right? Continuously to evolve as a person. I liken this a lot to like school, to kind of like, you know, create an elementary just visual of it. But you can't just like stop in a grade and then just be like, I'm good. I'm not going to go any further. I'm just going to stay in 8th grade, because then like the next grade has to come up. And if the 8th graders just all stay in 8th grade, then there's no room for the 7th grade to sit. Right. And then the 6th grade, and then it's like, that's not a thing. So we have an obligation. In my mind, it's always year after year. So like year after year, I have an obligation to grow upon what I already know. And I always visualize like a baton. Like I have to hand the baton off to the next year, Sabrina. Right. So I have this vision in my head of like I'm 42. So 1 through 42, or 1 through 41, Sabrina's inside me that all lived 1 year. And now I, at 42, have an obligation to learn more. I have to build upon, so that when I hand the baton off to my 43-year-old self, she has a leg up, right? So she can then take it even further for the next year. But if we're all just kind of mundanely staying, like what you're saying here, in first gear, we're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
It's freaking brilliant.
Well, I'm sure though, Sabrina, that you do know people who stay stuck in that gear. Or they
Absolutely.
Stay right? Like that there's some people who never graduated high school and they stay there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so
yeah.
I think I agree with you. And I think that's the challenge that we get. And it's something that we have the opportunity to do.
Yeah.
We have the opportunity to grow, to decide that 42-year-old Sabrina is not going to be the same as 43-year-old Sabrina or 44, and that you're going to continue to level up. But many people don't make that choice. And I always admire women who do.
Yeah, definitely. How does a woman know? Because, you know, we're using the word sneaky here, right? A sneaky way. So how do we, if it's like covertly, if we're secretly sabotaging ourselves, how do we know, or how will we get an idea to be able to like look and be like, wait a minute, am I sabotaging myself? What are some signs to know if we're even doing it?
So what I think of when I look at sabotage is it's like you're doing all those right things again, but something is not moving forward. So rather than like when we look at that first gear analogy, if you're pressing the gas and you know that the gas, like pressing the gas is part of what helps you accelerate, and you're noticing that it's not actually taking you there, then I think there's space for you to start to look at like, what I'm doing more of what I know how to do isn't working.
Okay.
And so yes, it's taken us to this level, but it's not going to take us where we're going, right? So I think that we have this opportunity to just notice, like, if what we've relied upon as our tools no longer has the same level of effectiveness. So I'm not saying that your tools aren't powerful, right? Because I think that's what makes it sneaky, right? Like this tool helped you, right? Like I've helped you. Never giving up helped you. But continuing to apply, never giving up, or drive or hard work or any of those things, and not seeing the same return means we got to look at the tool and say like, is there a smarter way for me to work with you? Or is there another tool I need to be applying here, or something else that I need to be doing, right? Like, so I think that what is important there is the mindfulness of realizing like, hey, what took you to this level is not necessarily what's going to take you to the next. And just having that open mind about, what could be available for me next.
Got it. So how do we as women, right? We're going 1,000 miles an hour. We're taking care of our health. We're taking care of our kids. We're taking care of our house. We're taking care of our spouses. We're trying to make money, running a business, trying to freaking take pictures, post on social. We're trying to do our hair. We're trying to look like trophy wives. We got to go to the eye doctor. How do we stay in the lead in our role as a woman without running into the ground?
Okay. I have another analogy for you.
Yes. We love analogies. Okay.
Okay. So I told you I used to be a chef. And one of the things that I've trained people how to make is pizza. like from scratch pizza, like the fresh, like Neapolitan style.
Oh yeah, I watch those on TikTok.
Yeah. So the most common issue I see people make when they make a pizza is they want to overload it with toppings.
Yeah, I'm always like, why isn't there enough on there?
Right?
Yeah,
So
when they're doing it, I'm like, dude,
right.
that's not enough.
So I agree with you, right? Like, so everybody when they first are making their pizza, right? Because a lot of times, like, the best way to learn is for you to make it. When they're putting the pizza together, they want to overload it with toppings. They want like all the spinach, they want the like garlic, they want the pepperoni, they want the sausage, they want the mushrooms, they want like the bell peppers, maybe they want the anchovy, whatever, right? And so they want all of that like on top of the pizza. Now, the thing about that is that when they put that pizza into the oven, if they overload it like that, one of two things happens. So either the pizza is so overloaded on the top that the toppings won't cook through, and when the toppings don't cook through, then the bottom ends up being like actually a little bit raw, and it ends up like ripping apart, and like things end up falling through. Or the top does get cooked through, all the toppings do get cooked through, and the bottom ends up burnt and bitter. And that's exactly what happens to us when we overload ourselves. We either end up raw and ripped apart with things falling through the cracks, or we end up burnt and bitter. And so when I use this analogy, what I mean by this is like, you can have it all. I'm not one of those people who, when I talk to people about burnout or stress or any of those things, I'm like, you should slow down. I say, like, you should slow up. You should figure out what you actually want on that pizza. What are the things that are non-negotiable for you? And how do you delegate the stuff that doesn't actually matter? How do you automate? How do you just make your life easier so that you can focus on the things that actually matter, and that you're not just like caught up in all the things, right? Because like, you can only put so many things on your pizza. You are that dough, right? You are a tender structure. And if you don't respect the dough, again, raw and ripped apart, or burnt and bitter. And I've been both, and I don't want to be them ever again. So what we can do is we can be really mindful about the toppings that we put on it, right? Or there are actually a couple different solutions here. So you can be mindful, you can put fewer toppings on, or you can become a deep dish pizza, which, if you think about a deep dish pizza, right? Like, that pizza is thick as fuck.
I'm from Chicago. I love a deep dish.
Yes, and you love all the toppings in there. So, but how does a deep dish differ from a Neapolitan? It has structure behind it, right? There is a literal pan that's holding that pie together, right? It's cooked at a lower temperature, right? So there are different things that a deep dish pizza has. Like, it has a thicker crust. It has like, it's made a different way. And so you can actually have a ton of toppings, because I'm a person who like for some people, the answer is take some toppings off, right? Like do less. The other option is to create more structure, to shift the structure so that you can hold a lot of things, whether that's by creating a stronger dough or creating structures that support underneath it. So to me, that looks a lot like delegation, or like automating in your business, or hiring a team to do some of the work for you, right? So that you can run your podcast every day, right? So you can do all the things that you want to do in your life, without sacrificing. But you can't do that without realizing like, okay, if I really want all these toppings on top, I need to support myself on the bottom here. I need to support the foundation so that I can do all the things that I want. And I'm definitely one of those people who's like single mom or not, like, I want all the things. I'm not slowing down. I'm not stopping. I'm going to get all the things that I want. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to level up my crust, right? I'm going to level up myself, my structure, so that I can have all the things that I want.
Good freaking stuff. Good stuff. This is making me hungry. There's a restaurant in Chicago called Luminati's Deep Dish. Oh, but what Diana is saying is right. The deep dish pizza is made completely different than the pizza that she's talking about in New York. It's the crust goes all the way up the side.
Yeah.
Like it's a actual like wall almost of crust to be able to hold all those toppings or all that cheese. Oh,
Yeah, I love Lou Malnati's.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Me too. Well, Diana, obviously, by the way, we have a ton of people watching live. Thanks so much for being here, for hanging out with us. We are showcasing on 6 platforms right now. Really, really loving all of the eyeballs that are taking everything in that Diana is saying. Diana, as we're kind of closing up here, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, we obviously are getting a great feel for your ability to be able to really break things down, storytell, and really help people see the way they could be living life differently. Who exactly do you help? Who should be reaching out to you for help?
So one of the things I always say is I cannot help lazy people.
Mm,
I am not
girl.
one coach. I'm not a 101 coach. So if you are personal development 101, like you don't even know how to get your ass off the couch, like talk to somebody else. Talk to Tony Robbins or Mel Robbins or anybody else, but don't talk to me because I'm not here for that. I'm here for people who want to take their success to the next level. So that my clients tend to be highly successful people who have reached a certain level of success and still are hungry. They still want more. They're not done. They know that there's more out there for them. And typically, because of my business background, they tend to either have a business or want to start their own business, and like really want that life freedom from that. So when I'm working with somebody on creating that like dream life and business for themselves, I think that those two pieces are absolutely essential. Like you don't have the dream business without the dream life. And I'm all about like reverse engineering, like, okay, how do you have that time with your kids, or how do you have that time to travel, or how do you have that time to do what you really want while your business is like making bank? Because if it's not, it has to be both, in my opinion. I'm not, like I said, I want all the toppings. I don't want just a fulfilling life as a mom. Like, no, I don't just want that. I want all the toppings, right? So,
Yeah.
For me, my clients, they tend to be those people who want it all, who don't want to settle for less, and who really want to like make a huge impact in their business, but are finding that like some of the tools that they've employed to get themselves to this level, it's time for them to take it to 201 or 301 or 401, so that they can apply like more nuance and really get themselves there by working faster. And so a lot of times my clients, they end up being women who have been stuck for maybe years. But literally within 6 months of working with me, they experience a transformation. So if you are listening and you are like, yeah, before this year ends, like I want my life to have a massive transformation where like literally I look at the dream that I set now and I'm like, that's small. In the next 6 months, like those are great people to reach out to me.
I love it. And then where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, on TikTok, Facebook at Diana Bejasa Speaks. So that's DianaBejasa Speaks. You can find my website. That's www.savorlifewithdiana.com. That's SAVOR Life, LIFE with Diana, DIANA.com. You can also find my Manifest Your Dreams journal on Amazon. So if you look up, the easiest way to find it is to look up my name, Diana Bejasa. And this is a journal that I created. Like, I didn't ever think I was going to publish something, but it was a system that I created for my clients, because my clients tend to be people who don't have a lot of spare energy or time, but again, still have really big dreams. And I was like, okay, we're working, I'm not going to see this as a problem. I'm going to see these as constraints. And how are we going to work within these constraints? So using a lot of neuroscience and some of the like scientific strategies or things that are proven to work for people, I created a 15-minute system that helps people really shift into the vibration of achieving their dreams, so that literally like within a week of using the journal, my clients are feeling different. Within a month, they are noticing that their results are starting to shift. So if somebody is wanting massive shifts quickly and doesn't want to just dick around or like play around and like, try things that don't work or are no longer working as effectively, check out the journal, schedule a one-on-one consultation with me. You can find the link on my website, or reach out to me. Another thing I'm doing is I do have a half-day retreat that I'm hosting in Hawaii, called Return to Vision. And it's really just this high vibe, like intimate opportunity for women, again, who are unwilling to settle. They want more, and are not willing to like slow down or stop, and really just want to accelerate.
Beautiful. I love that. So for those of you that are listening live or on the replay and you're really resonating with Diana and want more information, she can predominantly be found on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Her website is savorlifewithdiana.com. It is in a clickable link in the description below, wherever you are listening to us at. This has been great. I so appreciate you coming on, taking some time, sharing some valuable information with my audience here. Any takeaways as we close up? I mean, any closing thoughts as we close up?
Yeah, I want to share the origin behind my business name, Savor Life with Diana. So I believe, right, and you can tell from some of the stories I shared today, like I've had some bitter life experiences. I've had some things left me salty, sour, and lots of reasons to just stay that way. But I believe as a chef, right, like when chefs don't hide from bitter ingredients, they don't run away from sourness or things that seem like they're going wrong. What they actually do is they learn how to harness that and create balance. So they add richness, they add sweetness, they create something as a result of this bitterness. They use that as a contrast to create something even more delicious than it would have been on its own. So I don't run away from what's tough. I don't run away from what's bitter or sour or salty. What we can do is elevate it, transform it, and make it next level delicious in a way that truly satisfies and nourishes our soul.
Great. Yes, girl. Well, this has been phenomenal. I so appreciate you. Thanks for being here. This brings us to an end of yet another incredible episode of Her Talk Show. Thank you, Diana, for sharing your wisdom, for inspiring us. To our dedicated listeners that are still hanging out here till the very end, thank you. Remember to follow, like, and share. And once again, my name is Sabrina Victoria. I run a community called Her Nation Global, where we have conversations like this around health, wealth, and leadership, really getting women to their next level, which is exactly what Diana was talking about, right? We have to continue to evolve, continue to learn, continue to step into a brand new you. And that's what we do here. And we're fully dedicated to that. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, do something awesome today.